It is easier to hand off the guilt that comes as a package deal with your own existence if you can pin your shame to a stranger and not your family history, right? It is easier to heal from your trauma when it comes from someone outside your own ancestry. The men in my family have an unusual capacity for suffering. They're born with boats that capsize in the slightest change in tide, so I was taught to take shelter inside my own body. Undulating waves are only capable of saturating skin, so the only thing I will drown in will be undiagnosed depression, but at least I am all right today. At least my mother's hands are shaped like buckets. At least my sister is the entire lifeboat. At least the women in my family learned how to swim. I feel like my father is an oil spill, is drowning. I feel like my father is taking us with him. I want to let go of the dead weight, but I was born with anxiety as my greatest inheritance. I started life out underwater, born in a shark cage, surrounded by teeth and blood and saltwater suffering. I never learned how to come up for air or how to breathe at all. Never learned that depression is better at consuming space than my own body, is better than me at consuming anything at all. Depression falls out of my mouth like confession, like promise. Like it wants to be memorialized by being spoken into existence, so I memorize it into metaphors. It is easier than saying eating disorder, easier than being damaged, scarred by my own survival, easier than shark bite and teeth marks and open mouth trauma, easier than healing or wanting to get better. Sometimes it's hard to ask for help when you've been taught that you just feel too much anyway, right? Sometimes it's easier to let anxiety swallow you whole, to sit in the belly of the whale, to pray you are brought up from the pit until you wake up covered in seaweed, coughing salt water up from your lungs. PTSD claws its way out of my stomach, howling at the full moon reflected in his tortoiseshell glasses, escaping without a conviction or an apology. It stalks my memories and claws at the good days until they are shredded and mangled like the bad days, until all these sailors start to look the same. And I cannot recall which ones did the damage, or if they pulled me from the wreckage. Mental illness falls from rotten branches on my family tree. And I cannot help but wonder how far I will land from my genealogy. How long until the vine will no longer sustain me? When cradle echoes shipwreck instead of lighthouse, who will see the SOS spelled out in sand if I find refuge in uncharted waters? If my illness is invisible, and I cannot deny that it is pre-existing, sometimes it's easier to keep swimming than to let the sand between your toes remind you that you're still sinking. At least that is what my father would say.